Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining us, Ricardo, for Gen AI Con Sales and Customer Service. I think this will be a really interesting conversation for anyone in sales who are looking at using generative AI to increase revenue and some of the more practical use cases. So yes, I'll let you maybe introduce yourself and take it away with your presentation.
Yeah, well, I'll introduce myself in the talk, and I'll talk a little bit about me and what I do, and yes, we'll talk about. I try to do this as much practical as possible, so people can learn something that they can use right away. So I instead of coming with this futuristic speech about where generative AI is going and how this is accelerating, or I try to build basically something that people can use. So that's the idea behind that. So let me go ahead and get started and share my screen here. And thank you very much for inviting me, Francesca. I really appreciate being here with the Gen AI conference. It's always a pleasure. So I'll guess people will catch up on this. So let me go ahead. The idea here is to talk about how can you do data analytics with GPT-4 or ChatGPT Advanced Data Analysis. This is something that when it was introduced a couple of months ago, OpenAI called this Code Interpreter. So a lot of people may have heard about Code Interpreter. It's a plugin for the paid version of ChatGPT, and there's plenty of articles and videos on YouTube and so on and so forth, and it does many things. But I will focus on the part of that on data science, right? On how can you use this functionality to perform advanced data analysis. As the new name indicates, do that over ChatGPT. So it's very exciting because it basically can provide pretty sophisticated functionality, similar to what many people do when they perform data sciences or data analysis, and they can do that over ChatGPT over a conversation, right?
Fantastic.
So it's
That's
yeah,
definitely a use case I've been looking at is BI dashboards. I've had a bit of experience with Power BI and Tableau. Amazing for being able to see sales data geographically. So yeah, good. This is going to be a fantastic talk about, data crunching.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I've been in technology for about 33 years. Started right away in January 1990 after college. I graduated in Mexico and at Tec de Monterrey on computer science, and I started to work right away in technology. So through my career, I'm eventually became the head of Intel in Latin America, as general manager of the operation of all the Latin America subsidiaries of Intel, and that was about 9 years of my life they were dedicated to Intel. So, and Intel right now, it's also, of course, one of the companies that is betting very high on artificial intelligence. But I also spent some time besides Intel on companies like NCR and Sabre. So besides the experience that I had for basically for semiconductors and computer chips with Intel, I also had experience with user applications. In the case of NCR, I was managing the division that is called hospitality, that basically sells POS systems and back office systems for restaurants. And in the case of Sabre, I was managing the company for Latin America as well, and I was running the division that had to do with travel agencies. So these were more like applications of the technology and software companies, software-based companies, more than the big chip maker that Intel is. But at the end of the day, I have had experience in many areas of technology and gone through many of the different technologies that are out there. And right now, working very heavily in AI. And I'm working right now on how do you implement this in companies, because so far we have seen a lot of people very excited. Of course, I probably am a good example of one of those persons that, it's or I am a heavy, a power user, but I am also an early adopter. So for me, generative AI has been one of those technologies where I kind of like jumped into that and started to use it and to develop content and conferences and courses. But what I'm seeing right now is that corporations are going into this. So the technology needs to be there needs to be a lot of maturity, not only in the software but also in the offerings, and defining how do you really integrate this and which use cases the technology makes sense for companies. And the reality is that this use case that we're going to talk about today, which is talking about data analysis and data visualization, it's a great use case for this technology. Of course, there are many tools out there, but providing this functionality and provide capabilities so you can do data analysis with just a regular conversation and just relatively simple prompts. It's mind-blowing. So that's great. What I have there is my QR with my LinkedIn account for anybody that listens to this and wants to follow me. Right now I'm completely focused on artificial intelligence. So let's talk a little bit about really brief introduction. There's a lot of talk right now about what is the kind of artificial intelligence where we're at today with generative AI. So generative AI continues to be a narrow artificial intelligence, and we're on the road to more powerful artificial intelligence in the form of AGI or ASI. AGI, of course, is artificial intelligence that is more broadly capable, that is more like human intelligence, capable of consciousness, of feeling, and of developing or deploying many different types of intelligence at the same time. Whereas artificial superintelligence means, capabilities that are far beyond the capabilities we humans have. Those things are in the future. There's a lot of talk in the industry whether we'll reach AGI at some point at the end of the decade or within the next 10 years, or is going to be longer. But that's what's in the horizon right now. The reality is that with generative AI and a lot with the most powerful language models like GPT-4, a lot of people think that this is very general. So a lot of people think that this is not as narrow as it used to be. The type of artificial intelligence we had in the 90s that was very narrow, that was focused on just solving one specific problem. Um, the reality is that language models continue to solve one specific problem, which is the language, but the language is pretty broad. So it's a little bit of a gray area in that sense. That is, you can apply it to many different areas. You can use ChatGPT for many different disciplines. You can apply it to sales problems or marketing capabilities, or you can use it on human resources, and it can be used for a commercial company or for a manufacturing company, but it's still relatively narrow in the sense that it derives all of that and does all of that based on being very powerful with language. But language is, of course, super important for us humans, because we all the knowledge that we have, we normally express that knowledge in language. So it's like our operating system for us humans. See, we record our knowledge in a language form. We put it in written form, and all the knowledge goes into papers and into huge databases. So by being really capable with language as ChatGPT is, it's at the end something very powerful. Still not quite AGI, but it's pretty powerful. And the way it works is, you have huge amounts of data you can say that it's pretty much all of the internet, and in some cases a little bit more, in some cases a little bit less than the internet. But you have data from many different sources, from structured data to text to video to audio to 3D or virtual reality data. You feed all of that into this LLM or large language model like ChatGPT. You go through a process of training it, and then once it's trained, then it can provide several different services and can provide several information in different ways. We have some ways the information is provided on the right, like you can extract information, and we're probably going to do a lot of that in this session with some of the examples that I have, where we're going to basically feed the model with our own data, with a data set, and ask ChatGPT to perform some data extraction, to perform some visualization, so we can play with that data and do something meaningful with it. But there's also other ways of doing it, like Q&A. A lot of people are probably very used to Q&A with ChatGPT, of making questions about something they want to know in the form of a prompt, and then get answers from the LLM, based on all the corpus of information that the LLM has. And there's many ways that are coming. Some are coming really soon or are basically being released, like, recognition of images, and not only, kind of like broad recognition, but recognizing several details in the image, as to provide you with advice on something to do. A couple of days ago, OpenAI announced that ChatGPT can now see and hear and talk, and what that means is that it can recognize images with a lot of detail, and based on all the information it has been fed, it can recognize elements in the image. So if you ask him something very specific, like in the example they released, they showed a bicycle and somebody that wanted to move the seat of the bicycle, asking how to do it. And so ChatGPT recognizes what kind of bicycle, what kind of hardware is needed to do that, what kind of tools, and recommends just how to perform that task. So that takes recognizing the images, recognizing the details there, and also based on the information in the model, be able to provide advice. So this is pretty powerful. Now, if we want to apply this into data science, what we want to do is very simple. We want to do machine learning algorithms, which so far those algorithms have been done mostly by doing development in languages like Python or some other languages, but mostly coding those algorithms, machine learning algorithms, either regression algorithms that allow you to predict continuous values. Like, for example, if you have data about the sales of your company and you want to predict what is going to what are going to be the sales for the next cycle, let's say the next quarter, you will have the information of several years of sales, where you have an understanding in the data of if the sales are going up or down, and if there's seasonality in several periods of the year, based on the type of product you have. So you can feed all of that data into a regression algorithm and get a prediction for something that is a continuous value. Like let's say you're gonna say it's going to be 250,000 in dollars and some fraction there for the next quarter. So you can build those algorithms, which again, so far this has to do with training machine learning models, and they do that with programming and do that with specific libraries that you need to use in the computer languages like Python to be able to do that. Or you can do classification algorithms. In classification algorithms, you do things like ask if something is going to fall within some discrete categories. So like, for example, saying yes or no, saying, is this person, based on the data and based on the data of all the employees, is this particular person going to resign soon based on several behaviors, or this person going to stay with the company? And so that kind of like yes or no classification, that falls into these other types of algorithms. Both are machine learning algorithms, and so far you have done that with programming. So, types of regression model, there's of course several different types of regression models that some are more suitable for some uses, to be able to predict a continuous, basically something that is a number, a continuous number within, let's say, sales, or a given number for that is important for the operation of the company. And the classification models, which are some other types of models. And again, what they want to do is classify the results based on categories that are discrete. So maybe a yes or no, maybe something that can fall into 3, 4, 5 categories, maybe a color, maybe something that, again, is a meaningful result for the company, but is based on a few categories. And the steps to analyze the data sets, for people that are already into this, they know those steps. You need to have a good definition of the problem. What is it that you want to achieve? Are you trying to forecast sales in a way that is very precise? Because at the end of the day, you need to go to, if you're doing something with a product, maybe you have to ask your factory to produce a number of let's say, parts for supplying your customers. Or if you are dealing with some other type of product, you want to maybe plan for the capacity. Let's say if what you do is software and you're trying to forecast the number of customers, you build those types of um, and machine learning models. But what you want to do first is to have a very clear definition of the problem, then go and perform data collection. So all the relevant data that normally is, companies do have that data, but in many cases that data is not necessarily just ordered in a way that you will have all the data needed to solve your problem. So in many cases you need to go into places like those data repositories, maybe a data lake or some type of repository, or the databases of the company, and understand what is the data that you really need to make a particular decisions. What are the variables that might be of influence in your particular problem? So you will have that data. In some cases, that data is relatively easily accessible within the companies because it's already ordered that in that fashion, either in databases or Excel sheets, or in some place where you can get that data and then perform the analysis. And in some other cases, the data is a little bit hard to come by. But once you have that data, you can start to do some exploration on the data and doing some visualization, and getting some graphs based on the data can help you really understand what's in the data and understand if there are patterns in the data, or there are some characteristics on the data set that are relatively easy to view with your human eye, with the help of the artificial intelligence algorithms. But you will explore that data, see if there are some places in where there's some problems in the data, like let's say some data not fully available, or not being in the right order, or have missing data, or have data that is completely out of whack. That means that it may have been incorrectly collected. So you will have to do all of that and design what's your strategy for that, for how to deal with the outliers or the missing values, so you can have the data set as orderly and as clean as possible, so you can perform analysis that is going to be meaningful for you. Then you'll go into pre-processing, which means actually doing all the cleaning and all the pre-processing on the data, preparing the data for the analysis. That, in some cases, this can be a lot of work if you do it manually, because some data sets are huge, and sometimes identifying that problematic data, is not as easily. So you can do that very easily with the help of ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT to go and look at the data and do all of this pre-processing for you. And it will identify where are missing values, where the values seem to be out of whack. And not only that, but also design a strategy to fix that, which means that in some cases you might say, hey, if we have in this particular variable many missing values, is that variable really important, or is that variable not as important? So we can put some sort of label to deal with missing values. So all of that can be done by ChatGPT and can be done really relatively easily. Then the division of the data between the data that you will use for your model and the data that you will use for the test set. So you can run the model and then have another test set that can help you, understand how your model is really performing, and have an idea if the model that you build with the help of ChatGPT is really going to be as accurate as you need it to be, depending on the type of application you're doing. Then model selection. In model selection, you will select what is the model for your use case, which in the case of ChatGPT will basically suggest a model and tell you, hey, for this, for what you're asking me to do, this is the model that I suggest. So you can basically validate that and say, hey, yes, I think that particular type of regression is going to be good for that application that I have, or no, please look into or consider a different type of model. It's a dialogue, as many of us are, accustomed for working with ChatGPT, but the reality is that within, what's done here in when you do the data analysis, the dialogue between you and ChatGPT becomes a little bit more interactive, because it does kind of like some of the processes step by step. You're normally asking your prompt to do it step by step, and then it validates some of the things. Then it trains the model, and then performs the model. Evaluates the model, makes an interpretation of the results, communicates the results, and then we can go into implementing that model into production, into, if this is a predictive model for your sales, your quarterly sales, maybe this is something that you will be running every quarter or every month to try to have a forecast for the sales for your team. So this is something that you will be using regularly. For this, we're going to be using data sets that are coming from Kaggle. Kaggle is a community on the internet that has many data sets for many different types of information. Some data sets are for sales, some are for sports, some are for some academic purposes of all kinds. So it has data sets that anybody can use. It's a great community, and I really recommend using it if if you want to exercise your data analysis skills. This is a great place to go, a great community. There's also discussion on the models, and if you choose a model, you can not only have all the data in the model, but you can also see what other people are saying. People that have used that model, maybe some run into some problems with the model, or some data is missing or is inconsistent. You will see all of that in the community. It's a great community, and they also do contests and competitions. So it's a lot of fun to use that. So we'll use a model from Kaggle, which has all the historical sales from Lego. And this is the model where it is, so people can look it up and use them for their own training. And what we're gonna do is mostly be on the EDA side. So we'll be looking at the data and playing a little bit with the data and see what we can find over there. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll go into ChatGPT. One thing is that this needs to be done with ChatGPT with the paid version, which is GPT-4, not with version 3.5, which is the free version. And once you're there, what you need to do is you go to this, to this low left corner where you have your name, and then into the three dots here, you'll go there and look into the following. There's something that is called settings and beta. And you go into settings, you will have general beta features and data controls. And then you have, in beta features, you will have advanced data analysis. And advanced data analysis, you can turn it on or off. I have it on. This is the actual place where you do that. This is, the functionality that you want to have turned on, because we're going to be using advanced data analysis to perform this. So make sure that you have this set on. So if you want to use that, so when you go into ChatGPT, you can ask it to use it. You can do GPT-4 with default and with some other capabilities. I'm sorry about this, with this, like, yeah, like Zoom is getting in the way here. So yeah, I have it here. So you can do the full browse or do advanced data analysis that I have it selected. So we'll have it here. And one of the things that you have is that you will have the capability of attaching files. So you can, put the data model there. So let's go here. I have several AI models here. Let's go into the Lego one. This is a zip file that has a bunch of files in it. So I will put it there. It's gonna put all the data set into ChatGPT, and I'm gonna say, please, I'm gonna start with a very simple prompt. Look, I'm just asking to look into the data set and explain it on simple terms. So what it will do is that it'll go there, open up the zip file, open, extract all the information, and then it start to explain what is in the data set. As you can see here, it goes basically and started to build its own code. So it was doing that and says this data set contains several CSV files related to Lego sales, each potentially providing different pieces of information. So it has all kinds of information from all the data sets that have been sold, all the pieces, all the different parts, the colors. It's a great model. It has lots and lots of information. So it says, to give you a simple explanation of the data set, I will read the first rows of some of the CSV files to understand their structure and content. Is there a specific file you're interested in? Or do a general overview. I will ask it to do a general overview and look at each file and provide details. So this way I can have kind of like a pretty good idea of what's in the whole data set. In this particular model, we have about 9 CSV files. So it has to go one by one, look at the structure and what is the information that is on each one of them. Because it's a relatively complex model in the sense that, yeah, it has the sales of the kits through the years, but then it had the kits and how many, pieces of Lego are in each kit, what in which colors and all of that. So all that detail is in there, but it's across several different CSV files. So now it's giving me information about every single one of those and performing some analysis on each one of those CSV files. Some are inventory like this one here, and talks about the number of parts, what colors, what quantity, where some pieces are spare or not. So it's very, very detailed into the information. And it's interesting because in some cases I have played with this and with some data sets in which I have not provided absolutely any information about the data set, just throwing it out there, giving them the data set to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to actually try to make sense out of the data set without providing details for it, and it does it. It's pretty amazing what it can do, even if you don't tell what's in there. I basically, as you saw in my prompt, I basically told them, hey, this is sales of Lego sets over the years, but in this particular case, if I would have not placed that in my prompt, it will have reached that conclusion anyways, because it goes and analyzes all the data and does it in detail, and then start to recognize some patterns, and it probably has analyzed this data set in the past. So it can do that. But as you can see here, it is doing a very thorough job of going into each one of those files and providing information about each one of the files in the data set. Let me see, sometimes it can take some time into some of that, or sometimes there's a lot of people doing stuff in ChatGPT, so it can take some time. And we're dealing with kind of like a lot of information and doing work on a lot of information. So once we go through this, one of the things that I will ask is to do perform some EDA. So go ahead and analyze some of the data in there and provide some visual representation of the data, which is something very important for us humans to understand better what's there and what we're looking at. It seems to be. Let me see if this is something. I'll did it earlier, so I can probably, also for the purposes of our time, show that. Let me see. I don't know if I'm running into some connection issues here, Francesca. So.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Because Zoom is okay, but it doesn't seem to be.
Of course.
It seems to be stuck. So.
It's annoying, isn't it? Maybe if you could send me the URL there, is that possible for you to share that the link? I can try it on my side as well.
Yeah, let me see, because it seems to be. Look at this. It's now I'm getting some sort of a timeout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to try giving me the link as well? Would that work for me? Do you think? I know you can kind of share.
Yeah. Let me do this. Let me see if I can do some other things.
Magic. It's actually really good to come across blocks in demos so that when people come across them themselves, they know how to what the limitations are, how to get over those. Usually it's just patience.
Let me see if it can do the visualizations here.
Yeah, the visualization is some of the most advanced skills, I think, with ChatGPT. I know you can also create things like mind maps with some plugins, which is pretty. Have you explored connecting this with plugins for?
I've done that, but it seems to be stuck for some reason. Francesca,
Okay.
look
You
at
have
that.
to just explain, and what we can do is I'm gonna give this a go. If you have like the step-by-step process, we can sort of share the link for the Lego Kaggle and just like the step-by-step guide so people can, or the prompts that people should use and they can go through the process themselves. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have to record it at some other time so we can. I can do that. I can do the step by step, but it's stuck here. Let me see. I'm gonna try to do one last thing here. See if I can open it up again. Yeah, I'm pretty heavy user of this, so let's see. All right, let's put it again and see if we can do the visualizations. Let me see if it can go now. Yeah, it seems like it just kind of like got stuck. So let's see if we can come with the visualizations of the data, and I can show you. But the thing here is that, yeah, it can provide pretty good insights into what's in the data. For EDA, which is this visualization of the data, it can, yeah, let me, now it opened up again, the files. Yeah, sometimes it gets stuck and you need to do these things. It's probably kind of like around the limitations of this. But let's see, for example, right now in this data set of Lego sets and Lego parts is going through the colors file, and it's yeah, it's going to do a visualization of a kind of a color palette. And I'm gonna say, yeah, go ahead. As I told you, it's a far more interactive session. It seems like the behavior of ChatGPT is it asks more things from you than what you will normally do when you're creating text. When you're dealing with data, it tells you all the things it's doing. Like, I'm building a model under this type of regression, and do you agree or do you not agree, and those kind of things. And then it builds its own code. Let's say, look at this here. It's doing a visualization for all the different colors that are in the color
Wow.
file. Yeah. So these are all the different colors from the Legos. And
Yeah, data as artwork, I would say.
uh-huh. Yeah, and so you can ask him to do some other things. But for
What's
example,
amazing is this is all no code.
this is all no code. So this is doing basically pretty sophisticated data analysis with no code. Because yeah, ChatGPT is making its own code on the fly. Let me see if it's.
And is there a way to see the underlying code?
Yeah, sure. You can definitely see that. For example, here, if you do show work, but let's see if it doesn't stuck again. But let me put it. Yes. Okay, so now it will go into the inventories. But yeah, once it goes and builds that, it's asking me, shall we? Yes, go. Once you start to do it, let me show you the code. He's here. You can see the Python code here.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
It's
you
completely
can
no
learn
code.
Python even if you don't. When did you learn Python? Do you know Python?
Yeah, let me show you. I did it earlier, the exercise. So yeah, but look, it has timed out, so it's not showing me that. Now, please. I'm gonna build a graph. Please build a graph of the top 10 colors through the decades. I'm asking to build a stacked graph with just the top 10 colors as they go through the decade. So you can see how the preferences in colors have been changed through time, which is something interesting. It seems like, if you go through the 70s, 80s, it was more like basic colors. So it was more like red and white and black. And it's as we go into today, it's basically, the colors get more into like different shades of gray and stuff like that. I don't know if I have just basically, Francesca, uh, run into some of the limitations here of the number of prompts that I can do.
Yeah, it looks like you've maxed out your tokens.
Yeah, it looks like that. It looks like that
It was
because
super
it
cool.
has
Is
this
there
limit
any
of
resources for inspiration of um, the sorts of queries and Python requests, like things that you can ask the data essentially? So you can find the source of data in Kaggle. Can you also use Kaggle to find that sort of information of what to do with the data?
yeah. No, you basically do this. You do the following. The process is you will ask it for an explanation of the data. You will ask it for visualization of the data. If you want to have, let's say, 5 or 10 or 6 or the number of graphs you want of the data, it will give you, charts of the main data in the data set, so you can have a good idea of that. And then if you want to do something that is, based on an AI model, like let's say a predictive model, uh, either whether it's you want to classify or you want to do a predictive model, a regression model, you will say basically, first thing that you need to do is to ask it to pre-process the information. The pre-process piece is really important because that's where it, takes the data, cleans the data. In Python, for example, it's kind of like sometimes, uh, yeah, it looks like it's some timeout here that I'm running into. And you go into the pre-processing and then it prepares the data. Takes care of missing values, whether it needs to convert some numbers that might, come out as a text, convert into actual numbers, or, floating numbers. Convert them into the appropriate type. And once you do the pre-processing, then you basically ask the model for the type of questions you might have. So whether you want this to, let's say, do a prediction of your sales into the next quarter, or whether you want to do a prediction of the sales of each one of your product lines, or whether the next month is going to be one of the top months of the last 2 years or not. I mean, depending on the questions you might have, which, as I said, or the question you might fall, these models either fall into, a range of kind of like a continuous number, which is that would be, a prediction or a regression, or basically a classification, which can be a yes or no type of question. So you do that type of questions once you do the pre-processing, and ChatGPT will run that for you. So yeah, but yeah, the thing is that I'm afraid that I run into, as I said, into the limits here, as you can see. So what do we do, Francesca? Do you want me to record that video with doing the
Yeah,
steps?
maybe if you have time to record that section,
Uh,
end to end, that would be excellent.
yeah, and I can do that. Can do the process step by step, but of course I will have to wait for a few hours, maybe record it tonight or tomorrow morning, because right now I just basically completely run out of that.
Yeah, no,
I didn't realize
absolutely.
that.
And then we can
Uh,
I can write an article around this. We can put it on our Medium so we can have the video at the top, how you did it, and then the kind of step-by-step process and link through to you. In terms of like upsell, so people learn this process and then they want to come to you to do more advanced things. What sort of things could we be diverting traffic to you for afterwards?
yeah, please redirect traffic to me. I'll be very happy to do that. That's what I do. I mean, help people and help companies on how to integrate this into their day-to-day, and how can they apply these models into their sales or their forecasting or their production, whatever type of application they want to do that is a corporate application of the technology. Yeah, I can help.
Fantastic. What would you say about, for example, if you were to upload literally bank statements? It's highly confidential, but at the same time, you can use that to say, okay, these are the main accounts, or these are the main expenses, and things like that. Um, do you have an opinion on that side of things?
Yeah, what you do there is that you play, you can put into the settings of your chat GPT that all the information that you are working with is confidential, so it doesn't, put that information into their models. So don't use it to train the models. It's highly unlikely that a piece of data from your data is going to show up that way in the internet, or kind of like blow up, and then ChatGPT is gonna kind of like give it to somebody else. But I can totally understand that some people are not comfortable with that. So yeah, in the settings, you can put that. So you can say, you can basically ask ChatGPT that all of your conversations are protected and private. So it will not use your information to train its AI models. So you won't, that information just will be in your session, and then it will not be used anywhere. Um, so yeah, you can, let's say that you want to go into data that comes from your bank account, and you have it on an Excel sheet, and you want to do some analysis on your expenses or the expenses of your company. You can completely do this, apply that analysis, get some results and all of that. And then once the session is done, the information is not going to be there anymore.
That's fantastic. So you just write to ChatGPT, don't say save or store this
No,
information.
it's right here. Look, if we go into settings and beta, uh, data controls, chat history and training.
Ah, okay, cool. So you just
Yeah,
switch that off for when you're going to be using
exactly.
bank
It
stuff.
says save, look at the text there. It says save new chats on this browser to your history and allow them to be used to improve our models. Unsaved chats will be deleted, blah, blah, blah. So
Mm,
if you put it off, you're not allowing them to use them for training of their models. That's
fantastic.
that's the only
Okay,
thing you need to do. Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
Very, very cool. Okay, well, thank you so much. That
Thank
was
you so
an
much,
excellent
Frank. Yeah,
session.
ma'am. Yeah, we'll send you that information. But yeah, I'm afraid that we're running into that as you saw, and I wanted to show the whole step by step on how do you
What would
builds
be,
pretty
I find
sophisticated graphics.
really interesting to do is also with geospatial data. So like if you've got that, like addresses, for example, and make a map, or make an itinerary, and you can see the go to here to there and that sort of thing. That could be quite
All right.
interesting as well. Or to show sales on like more of a geographical thing where you've got color coded by number of sales in different regions, that sort of thing.
All right. Yeah, I'll
Don't
build
worry,
that and
not for this time, but this is something that I'm definitely going to explore how to do. I'm really interested in localization. I haven't seen many GBT use cases for that, but that's a big area for a company of a certain size. They want to go to market in different countries. So you can develop marketing strategies for that, and then you want to track, your sales of products across different places. So yes,
that's
fantastic.
cool. All
Cool.
right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesca.
We'll speak soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.